Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to my channel Science of Life with Dr. Muhammad Yusuf. We were discussing the endocrinology, and today we are going to discuss the bone and its relation to calcium and phosphate before we can discuss the parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. But as my routine, I have selected one hadith, innamal amalu bin niyat, बेशक आमाल का दारोमदार नीयतों पर है। जो अमल जिस नीयत से किया जाएगा उसी के मुताबिक उसको फल दिया जाएगा, और अमल वही कबूल है जो अल्लाह के लिए किया जाए। चाहे बड़े से बड़ा नेक अमल अगर अल्लाह के लिए ना किया जाए तो उसका कोई फायदा नहीं। तो जो भी अमल अल्लाह के लिए किया जाएगा अल्लाह के यहाँ वो कबूल है, वो नीयत अल्लाह नीयतों को देता है। ये हदीस बुखारी और मुस्लिम दोनों में मौजूद है। अल्लाह पाक हमें समझ अमल की तौफीक अता फरमाए। So we are going to talk about basic bone physiology and its relation to calcium and phosphate, and then we will discuss the parathyroid hormone. Bone is composed of primarily two important parts, matrix and salts. Matrix is about 30% in compact bone and rest is salts. And this matrix is higher percentage in newly found bone. Initially, matrix is laid down, then the salts are deposited. And salt, as I said, in compact bone, they are 30%, so salts are 70% of the compact bone, and newly found, they are less in the newly found bones. More is this one. Now, in this matrix, the most important element in matrix is the collagen fibers, protein. 95%, 90 to 95% of the matrix is protein. It is there's collagen fibers, and rest is ground substance, which we, that is extracellular fluid, proteoglycans like hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate. All this forms what we term as the ground substance. This is helpful for the deposition of salts in the matrix. This is matrix is initially laid down, then the salts are deposited. Salts, primarily they are the calcium and phosphate salts. Other elements are also deposited, but primarily these salts are calcium and phosphate salts. The most of the calcium and phosphate is in this form. This is crystalline form of the calcium phosphate compound, that is hydroxyapatite crystal. This is the main formula, primary formula of the hydroxyapatite crystal, Ca10 and PO4 6 and OH2. But there are some changes may occur here. Addition, substitution may occur. These crystals are long, flat, plate shaped, and the dimensions are like 400 into 100 into 10 or 20 or 30 angstroms. That is the dimensions of this crystal. These crystals, the calcium and phosphate ratio in these crystals may range between 1.3 to 2. That is calcium and phosphate ratio. You can, calcium is 10 and phosphate is here is 6. So the ratio you can calculate. It ranges between 1.3 to 2. Then the magnesium and the sodium and potassium and carbonates are also conjugated to these salts. Primarily they are the hydroxyapatite crystals. High affinity to many other elements and radioactive products. Radioactivity ko bahut ye, it is are the affinity, so they can be conjugated to this. Bone salts, this was the crystalline form of the bone salts. There are calcium and phosphate, amorphous form of the non-crystalline form of the calcium and phosphate are also there. They are known as amorphous calcium phosphate. Maybe several compound calcium phosphate as such, calcium monohydrogen phosphate or calcium dihydrogen phosphate. So these are the easy. These salts, these amorphous forms of the not crystalline one, these are easily exchangeable salts. Initially deposition occurs in this form and later on they are converted into hydroxyapatite crystals. So when they are easily exchangeable salts, so these amorphous form of the salts. The bone, strength of the bone, we are just talking about the basic concept, basic physiology of the bone. Strength of the bone, as we have seen, that is primarily the matrix is composed of collagen fibers. The collagen fiber, they provide the tensile strength, like the steel in the concrete, tensile strength in the, so salts provide the compressional strength, like this cement, etc. in the concrete. So salt provide the compressional strength, and collagen are, as you know, the structure of the collagen you must have studied in your biochemistry classes. It is composed of 640 angstrom repeating unit. There are repeated units of the this 640 angstrom units, and they, hydroxyapatite crystal is attached to these units, and there is overlapping of these units in the collagen fibers. So each unit is bound to hydroxyapatite crystal, and there is overlapping of adjacent fibers, units, and crystal, and like this structure results into the form of the wall of a brick, that one break and the another break is here, and the third break overlapping each other. So this is the arrangement of the hydroxyapatite crystal with the collagen fibers. This gives the bone the compressional as well as the tensile strength. The salts are deposited in this matrix. Precipitation of calcium and phosphate, this level, our we have not mentioned the level, we will mention this level in next lecture inshallah. 9.4 milligram per deciliter is the calcium level. Phosphate level we will see. This level is sufficient to be precipitated. A normal calcium and phosphate level in our body is sufficient. It is supersaturated level of calcium and phosphate for precipitation. But in inhibitors like pyrophosphate are present in plasma and most of the tissues. Pyrophosphate inhibits precipitation of calcium and phosphate. Otherwise, this level, normal level, is prone to be precipitated. But the pyrophosphate, maybe some other inhibitors which inhibit this precipitation of this salts. Inhibitors prevent the precipitation of these salts in other tissues except bones. Bone mein kyun? In bones, these inhibitors are themselves inhibited by some other inhibitors of the pyrophosphate. So these pyrophosphate, there is precipitation occurs. Pyrophosphate is inhibited in the bone. आगे हम देखेंगे जरा. So basic concept क्या है? The calcium and phosphate, they are normal level is sufficient to be precipitated anywhere, but most of the tissues contain the inhibitors in the form of the pyrophosphate or some other inhibitor. They don't allow, they don't permit the precipitation. But in bones, these inhibitors like pyrophosphate, they are themselves inhibited, so precipitation and the calcification of the bone or matrix occurs. Mechanism of calcification, there are cells in the bones, which bone forming cells we call them. They are the osteoblasts. They secrete collagen monomers initially, and the ground substance is also produced by these proteoglycans, and the collagen monomer, they polymerize to form the long fibers, and these long fiber, they overlap each other and they form a structure, osteoid structure. You must have seen in your histology slides, that is cartilage like osteoid structure is initially laid down, and osteoblasts are entrapped. Osteoblasts, they are laying down the collagen fibers and they are forming the matrix, they are forming the osteoid, then they are trapped and they become the osteocytes. Bone में जो osteocytes होते हैं, they are inactive osteoblasts. So a few days later, this osteoid has been formed. Calcium deposition starts on the collagen fibers and the osteoid, and small nidai, small focus nidai of the deposits appear at the intervals at the collagen fibers. Collagen fiber के जो 640 angstrom के जो units हैं, उनके interval पर these calcium and phosphates are deposited, and further a few days the deposit increases. Initially there is small nidus, and then it increases, and it is then converted into hydroxyapatite crystals in weeks. Initially, amorphous form of calcium and phosphate is deposited, then hydroxyapatite crystals are formed. Initial deposition is amorphous calcium, as I have said, and then addition, substitution over these convert them into the hydroxyapatite crystals in a few weeks. So amorphous forms of easily exchangeable, पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं, of calcium and phosphate. Extra calcium quickly deposited in this form. हमारे blood में calcium ज़्यादा होगी, it will be deposited in the form amorphous form of the calcium. And जब calcium हमें चाहिए, initially amorphous form of calcium is easily available from the bone. Later on, hydroxyapatite crystal can be again dissolved and it can be brought into the blood. But initially, this is the exchangeable amorphous form of the calcium. Quick resorption of these when they are required. This amorphous form of the calcium. Pyrophosphate, which is the inhibitor of the precipitation. This pyrophosphate is inhibited in bones and precipitation occurs. Rest of the tissue में precipitation नहीं होती. Tissue non-specific alkaline phosphatase, TNAP, tissue non-specific alkaline phosphatase produced by these osteoblasts is inhibitor of this PP पायरोफॉस्फेट. पायरोफॉस्फेट को इनहिबिट करने के लिए ऑस्टियोब्लास्ट ये चीज पैदा करते हैं, टिश्यू नॉन स्पेसिफिक एल्कलाइन फॉस्फेटेज, which doesn't allow the PP to act and precipitation can occur. There are some other inhibitors as well, maybe they have been detected. पहले ये detected, now they nucleotide pyrophosphatase phosphodiesterase, जिसका नाम है NPPI. ये भी है एक पायरोफॉस्फेट को इनहिबिट करने वाली, बोन में मौजूद होती है. एक और भी है, दैट इज एनकाइलोसिस प्रोटीन AKP, that also. So these three, they inhibit the pyrophosphate in the bone, so calcification is easy. The precipitation of calcium and phosphate occurs in the bone easily. बाकी tissue में नहीं होती, because these are not present. Pyrophosphate can inhibit precipitation in most of the tissue. Inhibitors of the pyrophosphate, these inhibitors if present in other tissue, अगर किसी वजह से किसी और जगह पे मौजूद हों ये inhibitor, जो पिछली स्लाइड में हमने 3 inhibitor देखे, they can inhibit the pyrophosphate, so there will be precipitation of the calcium, and may be deposited there, for example in tendons, for example in ligaments of the spine, which results into the ankylosing spondylitis. आपने इस disease का नाम सुना होगा. There is precipitation of these ligaments in the spine, और arterial wall में कभी deposit हो जाए, bony tubes बन जाती हैं. That is the जिसको कहते हैं arteriosclerosis. Calcium is deposited in the wall of the vessel. So वैसे तो वो elastic होती है, so they become rigid because of the ये क्यों हो रहा है? Because of the some inhibitors of the pyrophosphate may be formed in some pathological conditions. हो जाता है ना कभी. So the old blood clots, जब clot होता है तो वो भी calcified हो जाते हैं, वहां पे भी pyrophosphate के inhibitors पैदा हो जाते हैं. Degenerating tissues, जहां पे tissue, tuberculosis for example, degeneration in the lungs, तो आप देखें calcified spots आपको x-ray of the lungs पे calcification नजर आती है. वो क्यों? Degenerating tissue में there is deposition of the calcium and phosphate. So that's how calcium is deposited in the bones. Or the osteoblasts are the bone forming cells, and there are cells which remove the bone. There is constant remodeling of the bone takes place. Osteoblasts, they deposit the bone, and osteoclasts, they are responsible for the resorption of the bone or digestion of the bone. Matrix is digested, salts are digested. A continued process of remodeling occurs in दोनों का balance bone की रीमॉडलिंग को रखता है. बोन हर वक्त नई बनती रहती है, पुरानी रिमूव होती रहती है. द फास्टर रेट इन चिल्ड्रन देन एडल्ट्स, बच्चों में ये काम तेजी से होता है. वेरी क्विकली बोन्स इज रिमूव्ड एंड क्विकली रिप्लेस्ड बाय द न्यू बोन्स. लेकिन ओल्डर एज में ये स्लो होता जाता है. इसलिए ओल्डर एज में अगर फ्रैक्चर ऑफ द बोन हो जाए, उसका हीलिंग मुश्किल होती है. बच्चों की बोन्स आसानी से हील हो जाती है. नाउ ऑस्टियोक्लास्ट आर द बोन रिजॉर्प्शन सेल्स. They digest the bones. Osteoblasts, they are derived from the monocytic series of the blood. जैसे हमारे monocyte macrophages वाला सिस्टम है ना, उससे बनती है. They produce various villus projections in the bones. ये pseudopods like villi produce करते हैं into the bone, and they produce proteolytic enzyme which digest the collagen. Collagen में है protein, कोलेजन मैट्रिक्स में पड़ा हुआ है. डाइजेशन ऑफ द कोलेजन मैट्रिक्स को डाइजेस्ट करेगा. and there are acid production and which called the dissolution of the salt को भी dissolve कर रहे हैं और matrix भी dissolve कर रहे हैं osteoclast, and bone is resorbed and it is later on invaded by the fibroblasts and new bone is formed. Osteoclast also phagocytic material, वो phagocytosis भी कर सकते हैं इस material की digested part. Now osteoblast and osteoclast activities are in equilibrium. ये हमें पता है bones हमारे osteoclasts are in groups, osteoclasts होते हैं in groups में हैं, and they eat the bone around the in about 3 weeks, and a tunnel of 0.2 to 1 millimeter diameter and several millimeter length उसमें वो group में होते हैं ना, वो खा के लंबी सी एक tunnel बना देते हैं. And then the osteoblasts then appear and they start laying down the new matrix, or new osteoid is formed, and then the calcification occurs. The osteoblastic activity is more in stress bones. This is also another important point. That is, wherever there is stress on the bone, वहाँ पे osteoblasts ज़्यादा active हो जाते हैं. जब बोन पे अब ये देखें ना, आपकी बोन की आपने एनाटॉमी पढ़ी हुई है, जहां पे टेंडन वगैरह अटैच होते हैं वहां पे वो ट्यूबरासिटी वगैरह समथिंग वो बन जाते हैं, वहां ज्यादा बोन बनती है. और जिस बोन पर ज्यादा लोड होता है वो पावरफुल बोन होती है, हमारी फीमर जिन पे ज्यादा स्ट्रेस पड़ता है. फ्रैक्चर हो जाए दैट इज आल्सो स्ट्रेस. फ्रैक्चर साइड पे ऑस्टियोब्लास्टिक एक्टिविटी इंक्रीजेस. तो स्ट्रेस जब भी होगा बोन पर, उसमें ऑस्टियोब्लास्टिक एक्टिविटी ज्यादा होती है. इसको हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं. अगर हम सिर्फ प्लास्टर लगा दें फ्रैक्चर बोन को तो बस वो ज्यादा देर लेगी. क्यों? सिर्फ स्ट्रेस फ्रैक्चर का ही है, बस दैट्स ऑल. लेकिन हमने उसको इमोबिलाइज करके बातों को इधर बांध दिया, स्लिंग में डाल दिया, फ्रैक्चर रेडियस अलना हुआ है, कहीं हो गया तो उसको डाल दिया. लेकिन अगर हम उसको प्लेटिंग कर दें, फीमर की प्लेटिंग कर दे, नेलिंग कर दे और उसको एम्बुलेटरी कर, उसको कहते हैं इस्तेमाल करो इसको, देन देयर इज मोर स्ट्रेस. हमने उसको बांध दिया है बाहर से प्लेटिंग लगा के, द पर्सन कैन यूज एंड देयर इज मोर स्ट्रेस एंड इजी हीलिंग एंड क्विक हीलिंग अगर. So osteoblastic activity is more in stressed points, areas of the bone. Bone shape and structure adjust accordingly. जैसे अभी मैंने एग्जांपल दी, बोन की आपने एनाटॉमी पढ़ी, ट्यूबरासिटी वगैरह इसी तरह बनती हैं. And the fractured area also has more osteoblastic activity. Union of the fractured bone इसी वजह से होती है वहां पे. नेलिंग एंड प्लेटिंग जो मैंने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया है, क्विक मोबिलिटी लीड्स टू इनटू क्विक यूनियन, बिकॉज आपने स्ट्रेस उसको जल्दी मोबिलिटी कर दिया है तो वो जल्दी स्ट्रेस हो जाता है. तो ये हमने बेसिक बोन फिजियोलॉजी हमने डिस्कस कर दिया है. अब हम आगे जाएंगे इसके, दैट इज कैल्शियम एंड फास्फेट एंड बोन इंटर रिलेशनशिप. हम आगे देखेंगे कि हाउ कैल्शियम ये इंटरेक्ट होती है, कैल्शियम का लेवल क्या होता है, कैल्शियम कम हो जाए तो क्या होता है, ज़्यादा कैसे करने का तरीका है. होप यू आर फॉलोइंग मी. इफ़ यू हैव गॉट सम प्रॉब्लम, सम क्वेरीज, यू कैन आस्क in the comment section, and please do share these videos to your friends and to other medical students. And if you have got some question, you can ask in comment section. इसको सब्सक्राइब भी करें और शेयर भी करें. थैंक यू वेरी मच.